We all remember the moment in The Hobbit when Gandalf knocks on the green door of Bag End, and just like that, Bilbo Baggins gets dragged into an adventure. But if you stop and think about it, the choice feels almost absurd. Why would a wizard, Gandalf himself, pick a quiet hobbit for a quest involving trolls, goblins, and a dragon? And it all starts here, on that peaceful hillside. A single green door, a place built for comfort, not danger. That's what makes this story so good. Middle-earth's biggest turning points don't always begin on battlefields. Sometimes they begin with a knock on the quietest door in the Shire. So today we're answering one question. Why did Gandalf choose Bilbo in the first place? Because it wasn't random. Tolkien actually explains Gandalf's reasoning in detail. And once you see the full picture, the decision stops looking like a whim and starts looking like a move in a much bigger war. Even the way Gandalf begins feels like a sign. He doesn't explain much. He just marks the moment like he's setting something in motion. And from that point on, Bilbo's life is basically split in two. Everything before that mark and everything after. Because Bilbo is on the surface the last person you'd choose. He's comfortable. He likes his food, his tea, his routine. He's not chasing glory or danger. And that contrast, this warm little home against the shadow outside, sets up the real mystery. What did Gandalf see in him? The key detail is this. Bilbo isn't just a Baggins, he's also part Took. His Baggins side loves safety, but deep down, the Took side carries a spark, curiosity, boldness, restlessness. And Gandalf knew that. He'd known Bilbo for years. He wasn't guessing. He was choosing someone with the right mix of comfort and courage. But to really understand Gandalf's choice, we have to zoom out. Because Bilbo wasn't chosen just for Bilbo's sake. The quest itself had a purpose that goes far beyond dwarves and treasure. And that purpose begins when Gandalf crosses paths with Thorin Oakenshield, far from the Shire, out in the wider, darker world. In Bree, Thorin is dreaming of reclaiming Erebor. He's thinking like a dwarf, honor, legacy, a kingdom restored. But Gandalf is thinking like someone who's been watching the shadow rise for centuries. This isn't just a dwarven story, it's a strategic problem. And Gandalf knows the wrong plan gets everyone killed. Here's the truth. You don't fight a dragon head-on. You don't just march an army to the Lonely Mountain and expect it to work. You need stealth. You need surprise. You need a plan that doesn't look like a plan. And when Gandalf starts mapping it out, the idea forms. The dwarves need a burglar, someone small enough to slip into the dark without being noticed. And there's another layer to this, one that makes the whole quest feel urgent. Gandalf is already worried about the necromancer in Dol Guldur. He suspects that something far worse is returning. The darkness is organizing. And if that darkness ever gains certain allies, the North won't just be threatened, it will be doomed. Because the nightmare scenario is simple. Sauron and Smaug. If the Dark Lord ever pulls the dragon into his orbit, the free peoples lose. No matter how brave the elves are, no matter how strong men become, Smaug is a weapon of terror the West cannot match. That's why Gandalf wants Smaug gone. Not for gold, not for pride, for survival. So Gandalf needs the quest to happen. But he also knows the dwarves can't do it alone. They're proud, loud, and predictable. And that's the problem. Dragons love predictable. Gandalf needs someone outside their world, someone who doesn't think like a warrior or a king, someone Smaug would underestimate. That's where the burglar idea becomes real. And that takes us back to Bilbo. Because Bilbo isn't just small, he's also humble. He's not hungry for power, he's not chasing treasure. That matters more than people realize, because a horde like Smaug's can twist anyone. But hobbits, in Tolkien's world, are unusually resistant to that kind of corruption. So when Bilbo accepts the contract, it isn't just a plot point, it's the turning key. And here's the thing Gandalf understands better than anyone. A warrior acts like a warrior. A dwarf acts like a dwarf. An elf acts like an elf. But a hobbit? A hobbit does the unexpected. That unpredictability is a weapon. It's why Bilbo can survive things that should crush him. He doesn't win by force, he wins by being different. And then the story drops under the world, into the dark. The company is scattered, Bilbo is separated. And this is where Tolkien becomes subtle. because the next few moments feel like chance. But in Middle-earth, chance often hides something deeper. One wrong turn in the dark can change the fate of ages, because this is where Bilbo finds the ring. And no, Gandalf didn't choose Bilbo because he expected that. Gandalf didn't even know the ring was there. But later, he would say that Bilbo was meant to find it, and that there was another power at work beyond the enemy's design. Whatever you call it, fate, providence, purpose, it turns Bilbo's accident into history. And then comes Gollum. Not a villain in a simple way. Something sadder than that. A broken creature living in the dark, clinging to what he calls his precious. Bilbo doesn't meet him on a battlefield. He meets him in silence, in fear, in that cold underground world where every choice feels like life or death. And this is the moment that echoes through Middle-earth. Bilbo chooses mercy. He could strike, he doesn't. He pities Gollum. And that single act, that tiny hesitation, becomes one of the most important moral turning points in Tolkien's entire story. Because in the end, it isn't raw strength that breaks evil, it's mercy at the right moment. And when Bilbo finally stands in Erebor, facing the vast horde and the dragon's terrible presence, the entire reason Gandalf chose him becomes clear. Smaug underestimates him. The dwarves can't do this. A warrior can't do this. But a hobbit, small, quiet, unpredictable, can walk into the heart of a legend and come out alive. So why did Gandalf choose Bilbo? Because he needed someone different, someone humble, someone resistant to corruption, someone capable of mercy, and someone the enemy would never see coming.